was a little bit slow to push the button to start the show, but here we are, another Friday, another live stream. Angela, how you doing over there from our Boise office?
Doing okay. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. Here to talk about happiness and sobriety. And as you can see from the picture, I'm just jumping with joy to be sober.
A little overly happy, I'd say. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what this page says today. When I read it, I thought of that picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you only knew how much thought I put into the graphics that go with these things. So who's out there in the chat room? We've got Anchor, Christine, Barb, Kaz. Good to see you all there. It's morning wherever Kaz is from. Good morning, Kaz. And I know there's some other people out there. We've got about 9 people in there now, and more will be filling in. I guess before we start with today's topic, I will make an announcement. I think last week we said that last week I was going to speak in Arizona, but no, I'll be speaking at the Arizona Freethinkers group Sunday, September the 26th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m. my time. And I think that would be like 11 a.m. Pacific time. And they do a series there about secular sobriety or whatever. And I don't know, I need to read up on it and figure out what to talk about. But no, they have a series called Varieties of Secular Experience. And I guess I'm going to talk about what I know about people, about secular AA meetings, and people attend secular AA meetings, the different experiences that we have in secular AA. And in some ways I'm kind of hesitant about this, Angela, because I'm I can tell I can talk about what I knew at one point in time, but I think it's changed a lot over the last 18 months, and I really haven't kept on top of what's going on out there in the secular AA world post COVID, and I think it's a completely different thing than pre COVID.
Yeah.
I really do. So, I don't know if it's, I imagine that it's grown a lot. There's a lot more people involved with secular AA meetings than there were prior. But I haven't been that involved with it to know for sure. But I'll do my best, I guess. It'll be interesting, and I know it's a nice group over there, so I do look forward to it. So I'll be doing that on Sunday.
Okay. Well, yeah. And, it would be difficult to say because, my limited knowledge is that some groups, like I believe the Oh My God group, was meeting in person again. I don't know if they still are. But also doing their online thing. And then groups like ours never started meeting again because our facility never opened up enough to be able to have a group the size of our group back. They were only opening to groups 10 and under number of people, and that all of the groups were meeting in the same big room, which doesn't do a lot for the whole anonymity thing, And so we never went back to an in-person one, and so we've only been online. And so I don't know if those are factors. I don't know how many groups are similar to ours, or if the majority of them started in person again. So
yeah, and I'm out of touch with that too. My recovery activities moved from outside of the rooms to just more social media or podcasting or live streaming or working with the recovery advocacy project or through my peer support groups, things like that. I'm more into doing those kinds of things than I am sitting in a meeting, a 12-step meeting or something like that. Not to say that I don't occasionally. And what's really weird is the last few times I have been to an AA meeting, I've gone to traditional meetings and they've been okay. So maybe I'm defecting. I don't know. The ones I've been to though were really pretty tame, and I don't know. I mean, they did do the Serenity Prayer, but they didn't do the Lord's Prayer. And the Serenity Prayer I didn't think was that bad. I was able to sit through it without going crazy, and they didn't read that how it works or anything like that. They just read the preamble. So it wasn't anything. And when the people were sharing, it wasn't all God all the time. So it's not anything that was driving me crazy, but I could certainly walk into one of those meetings though, where it's God is wonderful all the time, and that would drive me crazy, no doubt about it. But anyway, so today we're going to talk about happiness and sobriety. I just picked that out from reading like the first paragraph in Joe's reading from October the 5th. Sometimes I have to tell you guys out there, I put some effort into thinking about what I'll be saying about the topic tonight. Sometimes I put in a little bit of effort. This time I put in zero, so this is going to be completely off the top of my head, and I hope it goes okay. But Angela, why don't you read for us Joe's reading from Beyond Belief: Agnostic Musings for 12-Step Life from October 5th.
Okay. So September, oh wait, you said October 5th?
Yes, I said October 5th.
That's so funny. I went to just today's. Yeah, I totally
Would you rather
did.
read today's? We could do
I
today's.
don't know.
Does
I
it have
hadn't
anything to do with
read
happiness?
October 5th. So yeah, that definitely has more to do with happiness
Okay,
than
well, let's read that one
today's
then.
does, but I don't know. Yeah, now I'm confused. Because you said October 5th, but I think that I just saw, do you want to do Joe's reading? And so so that's what I get for not reading the full thing through.
That's fine.
Okay. Well, let's try this. This should really be interesting then. Okay, October 5th. Start where you are. Well, it's not October 5th, but anyway.
No, it's not October 5th.
All right. The secret to happiness and recovery isn't a problem-free life. Rather, it is the habit of dealing with life as it comes. Life is now, and this is the place where our lives are happening. 3 mental traps can impose conditions or distort reality, nullifying the capacity to start where we are. These 3 thinking traps can cause procrastination and impede joy in our lives. If only I was in the right or with the right partner, had a different job, had more money, worked the steps better, etc. If only messages lead to self-blame, envy, and self-pity. When blank, then blank thinking. When I win the lottery, then. When my coworkers see it my way, then. When I am appreciated, ... When I die, ... When blank, then blank thinking is a pity trap that finds us praying for a magic bullet or a rescuer. The silver lining on this mental trap is that it is full of clues about our values. If what we write down in then is so important, we can make it so without when occurring. Right now, we can complete a when-then sentence. When I am rich, then I will help the homeless. The then may be specific, but it gives a general clue about our real values. We can honor these values now, even if our conditional when never happens. What if? What if I get sick? I start drinking. I go broke. I get found out. I fail. I hurt myself. Living with a crisis is one thing, but fantasizing about it is something else entirely. Whatever my challenges are today, can I see that the place to start is right here, the time to start is now, and the priorities to start with are of my choosing?
Well, that's pretty good. What I picked up on that, first of all, was what I'm guilty of doing right now is procrastination, is thinking, I'm going to, do the next podcast editing whenever or whatever. And when I do that and I don't actually do what I say I'm going to do, it does cause me to not be quite so happy. I don't know really what the answer is to that. What I've been doing is just telling myself, I need a break, but I've been taking a lot of breaks like that lately. It's just that I don't know. I just get to this point where I just if editing the podcast is just going to cause me stress, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. So anyway, that's what my first thought was about that. But I don't know if I'm thinking about, the ifs, if I had a different job or anything like that. That's not going on with me right now anyway. What about you, Angela?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot there. I can definitely recall thinking those things when I was out, before I got sober, that, if only, or, when this happens, then, I won't drink as much because, I'll be busy, doing other things, or, just kind of like the waiting for life to begin, or, or sometimes, just not wanting to make a decision or do something until the right moment for it, or another thing like looking for a sign or whatever. Even though I'm not into signs, it seems like I can still go into that thinking of that I need to wait on something to happen in order to move forward. We also talked about this a little bit in my home group last night. It was a Stoic reading from the Daily Stoic, I believe, and it had to do with procrastination. I think it said that procrastination was the enemy of action, or something like that. And so it really made me think about my procrastination tendencies in my life, and that was something that was on my list of geez, it's been so long since I've been to a regular meeting, I almost forgot what they're called. Character defects, or as I use them as coping mechanisms, or whatever. And that and that again, I never asked for them to be taken away, or thought of them in that way. And I try to look at how it's helpful, and that procrastination is helpful because it definitely gives me time to think things through, so I'm not reacting to something when I'm procrastinating. I'm acting, but sometimes I can take that a bit far, and make it so that I'm not able to take action, or I'm slow to it, and that usually it's that I'm either ambivalent, I really don't care that much about whatever it is that I'm procrastinating about, or there's some sort of a fear in it. Usually it's a fear of losing something. So either I can pause on something and procrastinate because I don't think that I can do it, and I don't want to find out that that's true, that I can't do it.
We actually have a caller. I didn't notice
All right.
it. We'll see. That's great, calling so early like this. Good deal. And you're from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Welcome. Albuquerque.
Hi, if you're talking to me.
Yeah, I'm talking to you. How
Hello,
you doing?
can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Good. It's been nice to hear both of you. I'm actually from San Jose. I don't know why it's showing up as Albuquerque.
Okay.
But that's okay. I'm from New Mexico.
Well, thanks for calling. What you?
So are you?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Are you asking me to comment on the topic?
Sure. Or whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for having this. This is my first AA Beyond Belief meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually been in recovery for more than 24 years. And I have still spent a lot of that time in a lot of despair. And now I'm thinking that I was feeling a little bit limited by traditional meetings. And so I'm trying to expand my recovery and make sure that I'm not holding myself back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to hold anyone around me back. And I think I still have a lot of thinking patterns that are not, that are destructive, and not constructive, and that I'm not even really aware of them because I've just gotten so used to them.
Yeah.
And so it was helpful to hear what was said already. I really don't want to go back to drinking, but now I'm really focused on I want to be the best person I can be and to contribute to the lives around me in the greatest way possible. And so for me, that means I really need to be paying attention to my thinking and how I might be pulling myself down. And if I pull myself down, I'm pulling others down, even when I don't recognize it. So
that's great.
That's really where I'm at.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you.
And just to let you know, I tried to get on through my computer, and I don't know if I have programs set up with cookies or something that's serving as an impediment, but it just told me that the YouTube channel was not. available to me, and
Oh.
then I just noticed the phone number, and I decided I would try to come in that way. So,
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, I wonder why the YouTube channel doesn't work for you. That's interesting. But yeah, so can you actually, you could probably stay on the phone and listen to it if you wanted to do that. But and this is also on our Facebook page as well. If you'd like to listen over there, you can go over to our Facebook page and just type in Beyond Belief Sobriety, and you can find it there as well. We
thanks.
we do these live streams every
Thanks.
Friday at 7. So and they're a lot of fun. It's kind of like a meeting, but it's also kind of like a social gathering as well. We talk together. But I really liked what you had to say. I mean, that was really thoughtful, and I relate to it, or it certainly resonates with me. And so thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and it might be a little bit confusing on that that this isn't, a Zoom meeting or
Right.
or an actual secular meeting. It's just a live stream podcast is what we generally
Right.
refer to it as. And so if you go to the YouTube page of Beyond Belief Sobriety, you can also participate in there. In the chat function, there's a live chat feature.
Right.
And so then you can see all of the other chatting that's happening. And you can meet people like Anchor and Christine and Joe and Dale and people like that who are regulars that come on and spend Fridays with us for about an hour and talk about things that are relevant in our recovery, or just kind of socialize with other sober people. We sometimes talk about bikes for no apparent reason and bicycling and things like that. So that's another way to connect with us as well.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
But I did try to go to the YouTube page, and I just wasn't allowed.
Okay.
Oh,
Interesting. On it said that it was not available to me. And just because of my interest in privacy, I mean, I'm not ashamed of being an alcoholic in recovery or anything, but feedback has a track record of tracking people, even when they don't have Facebook accounts, which I don't for that reason.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Oh, I see.
Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Joe Bob points out that YouTube requires you to log in to a Google account and create a YouTube channel. I didn't know that. I thought you could just go in there and listen to anything. So
I could have should have checked with John on that. He would know as well. So like I have a YouTube account just because I can't stand paying for or watching commercials, and so I pay for monthly for
I
YouTube.
do that too. YouTube,
and then that way,
too.
and so I forget sometimes that that it's different. Except when my partner, life partner John, logs on to something, and then suddenly there's a commercial. I'm like, what's happening? And I forget that. Yeah, he's super. He's good with all of that stuff. I mean, there's a very small trace of him in the Google world, I guess, because he doesn't, use Facebook, and he doesn't use the same Google account, and and so he has a very small cyber footprint, I guess. Whereas, mine, I'm definitely one of those people sucked in, and that that I don't want to pay for commercials, or I don't want to sit through commercials, so I'll pay not to. And I'm all over the place. I'm hopeless, I guess, when it comes to cybersecurity. Although I put my name out in a way that people, unless you knew me previously to, I don't know, 2018, I don't have my name in Facebook in a way that people know what my last name is and stuff. So there's some, but not a great deal of anonymity involved. So yeah, but I definitely understand the desire for it, and why people wouldn't be involved. And I think it's a good thing. It's a little bit of a difficulty with, trying to connect with people who are like-minded and free thinkers within recovery community, because a lot of it is involved with Facebook these days. The Facebook groups primarily. So it can be difficult to access other people and to create friendships and stuff within the secular recovery community without it. But I think that it's possible, and there's more things coming out that can, I think, more tools that will be a little bit more conducive to. Let's see, I don't want to say anonymity, because some of the newer tools that create community do require that you use your name, but it's smaller groups, different platforms, so that your information isn't put all over the place, and it isn't used just to keep you online and connecting with other people. So it's not the same purpose that Facebook does, which is, to advertise to you and sell your information. So I'm hopeful that there'll be more communities like that, or more platforms that'll be easier for us to access and create community and stuff. So
Thanks again. I appreciate the call. I'll keep you there, so if you wanted to listen on the phone, you could. Okay.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, so happiness, huh?
Gail made a good point. And this is something I used to think about too. Every once in a while, I'd be in a meeting and someone would say that if they couldn't be happy, that what's the point of being sober? And that always kind of got to me as like, no, for me, being happy wasn't the point of sobriety. It's just being happy, whatever happiness is and however you define it. It just happens. It's just a byproduct and comes from, being sober and doing the things that keep me engaged in my recovery and help me improve my mental health and my physical health. That kind of thing makes me happy. But the goal for me isn't happiness in and of itself. In fact, if I want anything, it's just to be maybe content more than anything else with whatever the situation is that I'm in. But I do disagree with that sentiment that if I can't be happy, I may as well be drunk, because the two are different things. It's not like drunk is unhappy and the opposite.
Yeah, because I was happy when I was drunk, quite often. At least I could remember some. But I'm with you on that, in that that happiness, it doesn't equate. I think that I think of it in dopamine and serotonin and all of that kind of stuff, that it's biochemical as well, and so it's moving, and that I don't think that we're designed to be happy all the time. I mean, if we were happy all the time, we wouldn't do anything, and so we wouldn't procreate, we wouldn't seek out food, because if you're happy, then you're fine, and so so I don't think it's a state that we're supposed to be in for a long period of time. I think that it can happen, and that it's not the end all be all of things. But I'm also a nihilist, right? No, just kidding.
I wasn't happy for a long time. I had a really hard time the first couple of years. It wasn't like it was, looking back on it, I'm not saying that it was an unhappy time or anything, but it was not, it was like, sometimes I just, I couldn't, if you told me that my sobriety, you gauge my sobriety by how happy I am, that wouldn't have helped me very much, because I was struggling, and I think what the best thing that I could have done to gauge my sobriety at that time was that I wasn't drinking, and I was making friends, and I was learning about myself, and I was learning that there were things that were bothering me, so that was just a natural part of getting sober for me, was having some unhappiness, I guess.
Well, I think that more than happiness, what I generally would think about is I don't like to be unhappy.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it's more of of that feeling for me of I don't necessarily have to be happy or ecstatic or any of that. Like, when I saw the picture and first got on with you, I'm like, John, I don't think this picture
No.
really represents our podcast very well, because
No.
when I look at that, I don't really think of two people over the age of 40
No.
on a Friday night talking
No,
about
no.
sobriety. It just doesn't match very well.
Yeah.
But
So what
um,
I did, how I found that picture, I used Canva, and I typed in the search "happy person."
yeah, and I guess that is a happy person, and yeah, I
Oh,
think when I've had a
she's got a
balloon
balloon, I
before,
think.
yeah, that I've been, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So anyway, yeah, so in sobriety, and kind of like, with looking at what we read today and stuff, it is kind of a middle ground thing that I think I'm mostly seeking, and that, yes, it is me jumping on a trampoline, totally in my prison garb that I recently escaped. And so that's also a good point, that it does kind of look like a half a prison uniform,
Mhm.
or that just the jumper part is
That's why she's happy. She's
rolled
jumping over the
down.
fence to
Yeah,
get
and
out
she
of
stole
prison.
somebody's balloon. So and see, that's the thing, is that that would make me happy, escaping prison and stealing a person's balloon. And so, is that right? Is that a part of sobriety? Just because escaping prison and stealing a person's balloon makes me happy doesn't necessarily
Mhm.
make me the role model, or a
Right.
role model in sobriety.
Right.
So
Right.
I've had that discussion before with people, that with the girls growing up, a lot of my friends would say with their kids, they just want them to be happy, and I'm like, well, if the girls are happy, I'd be glad for them, but I mainly want them to be good members of society, and participants in humanity, that kind of thing, because it could be that axe murdering people is what makes them happy, and
Mm.
and if that's the case, then that I don't know that I would be a proud parent. I mean, like I've said before, they'd need to like channel it like Dexter or something, but Dexter's not actually the best example of a serial killer, or a psychopath, or any of that kind of thing. He's basically what we would like a psychopath or a serial killer to be like, like questioning why they do these things, and
Mm.
yeah, and like this suggests, we need to look at our internal um, reasons for things. What's our motivation? Are we procrastinating? Are we doing an if then, or a when then thinking? Or are we understanding what our motivation is, and what we want to happen, and what our values are, and then just going with that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so, yeah, so happiness isn't really the goal to me. I guess the not being unhappy is often my goal.
Right. Right.
And for more than that, just trying to understand who I am, to the best of my knowledge, and what's my thinking, and trying not to cause more damage than already exists.
Mhm.
Trying to be a better version of myself than I was yesterday. All of those kind of things, and sometimes that includes being happy. Sometimes doing those things makes me happy. Oftentimes it doesn't, because a lot of what sobriety is to me is learning how to adult,
Yes, that's
and
yeah.
and adulting does not always equate happiness to me.
No.
Yeah, I would much rather spend my money on a fun vacation or something, rather than paying bills, and paying taxes, and all of that kind of stuff that you have to do, or housework, or taking care of a home, which is very much adulting.
Mhm.
Having to fix things, or do the maintenance of stuff so that they don't break. all of those things, so yeah, those aren't happiness to me, but living in a home where things are running, fairly well, those are, things that, I generally feel happy about, or maybe just grateful for, that, I have a house that doesn't have a bunch of leaks in it, that kind of stuff. So yeah, so it's an interesting way to think about things. I think I probably did, before I got into recovery, think that that there was a more of a happiness component to things,
Mm-hmm.
that I needed to be happy, or I wanted to be happy, or that I do know that that I used to think that, when I lost weight, that, then I was going to have the perfect job and the perfect boyfriend and the
Mm-hmm.
perfect whatever, and so then when I took that, compulsion away from myself, then it became, that I, that the perfect boyfriend or the perfect job or whatever would help me control my drinking as well. And, and that wasn't the case either. And so, yeah, so it turns out that, yeah, sometimes, adulting makes me happy. Sometimes it doesn't. But my mindset generally is that, drinking would not
No.
help me adult better.
No. I
So
really like Barb's comment there, that she strives to be an emotionally regulated adult. Sobriety helps me with that. Part of that for me is having a cheerful disposition. Yeah, I'm thinking along the lines too of that, thinking about Joe's and what Joe wrote in the first paragraph. That for me, I think I would answer that it's that for me, it's just being able to deal with life as it comes and have some way of doing that. And I think before, I was in recovery, and certainly when I was drinking, that wasn't happening. My life was pretty much a nightmare and out of control. And so now I have some sort of control, not all the time, but when things get a little out of control, I have a way of reining it back in. So yeah, just being a emotionally regulated adult, I guess. Works for me. I'm happy with that, and I'm not saying that I always am, but I'm a lot better than I have been in the past. And I'm cool, with that. I'm every once in a while I do stop and realize this is kind of getting into gratitude a little bit, but every once in a while I do just kind of stop and realize that wow, I'm okay. Things are okay, and I never thought that they would be. And it's weird to have a thought like that, but that I have those from time to time. That wow, things are. I never thought that things would be like this, and they are, and it's cool. So it's nice to have that, because it wasn't guaranteed that things would turn out well, for sure. But I'm lucky, I guess. So, any other talk? What would any other comments from you on that, Angela, about being well regulated?
Yeah, I think that again, I don't know that it leads to, necessarily happiness, or it's the secret to happiness. I think, I guess that it is, I don't know that you can get there without it,
Mhm.
but it, being, self-regulated, emotionally self-regulation and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's more conducive to it. I guess the problem for me with looking at this reading and thinking about, happiness and sobriety is that I guess I probably thought in the beginning that if I, like I said, if I did everything right, and I did the steps right, and I, did all the stuff, that I would feel happy, that I wouldn't feel the life things, and that my experience has been that no, doing the steps and going to therapy and doing other things has made it so that, I can take life as it comes, which is the suggestion here, and, do life day by day and kind of roll with the punches and all that kind of stuff. yeah, it helps me do that. But that isn't always, happiness isn't always the outcome of doing all that. It just, is. So I guess maybe, it's more of just being somewhat serene or content in
Yeah.
life.
Angela, I'm kind of
That's what it
laughing
gives
at
you.
myself. You know why?
Mm,
I think September 24th was supposed to be the reading.
yeah, that's
I'm,
what.
I'm looking at it, and it says happiness is an inside job, and maintaining peace requires regular
Yeah.
sprinkling. Should we read that one?
I guess we can. I'm not sure where October
Why
5th
don't you
came
go?
from.
Why don't you go ahead and read that one? I think it has more to do with the topic.
Okay, yeah, this is the one that I read prior to the show, so we'll see if that helps with the discussion a little bit.
All right, here we go. This is
So
today's reading, and I think it has to do with happiness.
yeah, it
All right,
does a little bit as well.
all
So
right.
yeah, all right, September 24th. Oh boy, good thing we're not getting paid for this, huh?
I
We
know.
both have our day jobs.
What was I
Okay,
thinking? I don't know.
I
All right.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Um, a man who has a physical being, or a man who, as a physical being, is always turned toward the outside, thinking that his happiness lies outside him, finally turns inward and discovers that the source is within him. Kierkegaard.
Hmm.
Happiness is an inside job, and maintaining peace requires regular spring cleaning. We are only as sick as our secrets, they tell us. Our public and private selves, what we present and what we hide from others, may look different from one another. We may be candid about deep, dark secrets in one environment and zipper-lipped in another. Self-deception and unconscious biases are unavoidable. It takes years to understand the triggers that impact us emotionally and causes us to act or react. These reactions are not always conscious or premeditated. For the purposes of today's musing, we'll look at outer and inner unmanageability and how the road of happy destiny is navigated. In the midst of our addictions, we look to the outside world for something to lean on, to relieve our inner discomfort. In step one, we look at the unmanageable fact of being powerless over our cravings. There is other surface damage too. There may have been bankruptcy, illness, legal trouble, and blows to our image and reputation. As we learn more about ourselves, we find distorted perceptions, fear, greed, desperation, and maybe neurotic or psychotic symptoms. I feel called out here. No. We have codependent predispositions stemming from irrational beliefs that drive us into ever escalating, risky, and reckless dramas and ambushes with the people we hook up with in life. No wonder we want to outsource our salvation. Until I understand triggers, compulsions, and automatic thinking, I will feed my need with people, places, and things, just like the old days. History will haunt me until I take time to identify and face my exact nature. Does internal turmoil, that's a hard one to say together. Does internal turmoil stop me from being happy? If this is not my first look at step one, is there more to my dependency than meets the eye? Whew,
Wow.
yeah, that was hard for me to say. As I've mentioned before, I had a speech impediment as a kid, and I both stuttered and I had problems with R's.
Oh.
So the internal turmoil was really difficult for me. So just in case you guys were wondering what my issue was, that was it. It was R's. So yeah, so that's what I was looking at earlier.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and thinking about a little bit, and some of the stuff I liked in this was the let's see, I wrote something: addiction and solution to relieve our inner discomfort. As we learn more about ourselves, we find distorted perceptions, and the fear, greed, desperation, and maybe neurotic or psychotic symptoms. Yeah, that was a big thing of what my addiction or my seeking out outside things to relieve my inner discomfort was doing. And then the codependent predispositions, and how they stem from irrational beliefs, and that I didn't realize that until I actually went through the fourth step and started looking at where my beliefs came from. Why is it that I believe this to be true? Why do I think that? Why do I have this resentment towards friend, family, or whatever? And is it a realistic reason why I have this? And if not, where did that come from? And where did that develop? And a lot of mine developed from ways that I had to cope with reality as a kid. And as a kid, you don't have a lot of resources. It's you don't know how to be rational or realistic, and so you go to whatever helps you. And for me, I think one of the things that I learned as a kid is that you can't trust adults, that you can only trust yourself. And so I learned to try to control as much of the stuff that was around me as I possibly could. And then the stuff that I couldn't, if there were, adults around and stuff, that I tried to make myself invisible or be absolutely the best at whatever, I needed to be. So if I needed adults' help or something, then I would try to be the best at something to get their attention and their approval, thinking that that's what would garner their help. And otherwise, I tried to be invisible, and then that way they, wouldn't look towards me or trip over me or whatever it was that was happening. And so as an adult, I was still using those tools from like a 6-year-old point of view, and so then I'd get upset and I'd lose friendships, kind of in from 6-year-old tantrums and stuff. And so I had to look at that and understand that, that those things really did help me as a child, and that, they had a place, and that they still have a place. There are things in my life where, I need to use control, that where I need to be judgmental, like crossing the street and stuff. So I don't want to lose those skills. I just want to have discernment on when I use them, if it's an appropriate situation or not. And I need to update them to an adult's toolkit, so I can go through the world in adult, rather than the toolkit of a child. And so I think that this is a really helpful reading for me, or a reminder of what the first few years really in recovery did for me, which was help me to discern that sometimes what I see and the judgments I make and, my perceptions of situations may not be completely accurate. I might be acting out of a different time, or I might be reacting to a situation that feels like something from a different time. And it's, generally not a premeditated thing that I'm doing, or a reaction that I'm giving. It's not always conscious to me. And so, taking some time to step back if I'm upset about something, or I want to lash out at someone, and trying to look at, why is that? Is that because of whatever's happening immediately in front of me? Or is it because of something from my past and it feels similar to what's happening now? And that, I need to take a look at that before I act in a way that could be harmful to me, or, people I love emotionally, or whatever other way. And that these, triggers, that I'm talking about, those are things that, even though I went through my, fourth step in my first year, I think I actually did it I went through again, about 3 years. So I've gone through the steps with 2 different sponsors. So in my first one, I started to see a lot of these things, the first unpeeling of the onion, as they say. And then, again, after that, and then with therapists as well, in a multiple different kinds of therapy, have helped me to start to understand better a variety of triggers that I wouldn't have understood or noticed in my first year.
Mm-hmm.
So that I at least, have the ability to get myself to a place where I tend to be happier, I guess, or I have moments of happiness, or I'm just not generally unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah. I found it interesting that he was thinking about step one when he
Hmm.
was talking about the
Yeah.
internal turmoil, because I was immediately kind of thinking about step four. But there is some self reflection obviously in step one too, when we come to the point that we realize, wow, there really is a problem here, and that is freeing. Whether you're facing your addiction for the first time or any other problem that's going on in life. I mean, for me, I mean, I have things come up. I mean, I can get myself into behaviors that slowly over time put me in a place that is not good for me to be in. And when I stop and recognize that this is a problem, and then I look at whatever is going on internally with me that's causing this, I mean, I immediately start feeling better because I'm taking some sort of action to get out of whatever funk I happen to be in, whatever pattern I happen to be in. And it's so easy for me to fall into patterns that make me a little unhappy. And it seems, honestly, since the world has changed so much over the last year and a half, it's much easier for me now to kind of fall in patterns like that. I don't know why, but it is, and it's hard, and it's sometimes harder to get out of it. And that's probably because I don't know why that is, but maybe it's because I'm not out and about with people as much as I used to be, I guess. I don't know. But when I do stop and think about whatever it is that's going on inside me, why I am reacting as I am, and for me, I always have to get a piece of paper and write things down. It does kind of help me out, and it does kind of lead me to a happier place, actually. So it makes me feel, if not happy, at least that things are manageable anyway.
Yeah. I think that's the same with me. If I
Yeah.
find myself circling or yeah, just in a going over and over, a certain situation or something I don't like or I'm angry about or whatever, then, sitting down and writing it out definitely helps. As I've said previously that there is something about physically writing something with a pen and paper or pencil and paper, and that the neurotransmitters, there's a pathway that goes, by, yeah, I can't explain it very well because I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a scientist, but there is something to it that does, one, lighten the mood. And I think part of it too is I have an awareness that if I have it down on paper, then it's there. So if I
Yeah.
need to look at why I was angry, I can go
Mm-hmm.
back and it's like right there. So it relieves part of my brain and says, okay, you've got that down. So you don't have to, keep holding on to it and reminding yourself to be angry about something or
Mm-hmm.
something was unfair. Because generally it's something that I find unfair, that makes me angry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to write it down, and then I can, either, walk away from it if that's what I need to do, or I can look at it. And that's where, the stuff and writing columns and stuff has been helpful. I mean, I don't think it's the end all be all in the way that you should handle
No.
like all your
Right.
problems,
Right. Right.
or anything, but it is hopeful, because for me, it helped me to be a little bit more concise,
Yeah.
which is something that I have issues with sometimes, because I would journal prior to being in recovery,
Mm-hmm.
but it was always basically an argument or a dissertation on why whatever my point was the right one and other people were wrong, or
Mm-hmm.
and I don't find that I do that when I do a resentment inventory or something like that. That I am a little more concise and can get to, what is my part of the situation, and
Yep.
sometimes my part is simply that I'm not, letting whatever it go, or I'm assuming that this person, whatever they said or did or whatever they did on purpose just to hurt me. And oftentimes, whatever the situation is has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's, that somebody didn't even say things in the way that I took them, or that they had a bad day. And so whatever it was we were talking about, I kind of got, they took it out on me, or most of the time it's just that I didn't know the context that they were talking in, and stuff. And I'm saying that because a lot of stuff right now with friendships and other humans is done in text, because I'm not going out as much and seeing people, so it's in text messages or emails or messenger or something like that, and that doesn't always translate correctly when you read it, and so it's quite easy to have things taken out of context and stuff these days. And so the talking one-to-one, and the trying to see people face to face, even if it's via Zoom or something like that, is definitely better for friendships and for maintaining good relationships. Text just doesn't always do that. So and I think part of why we tend to slip, like you said, as far as our moods, or being the people we want to be, or whatever it is, I think that sometimes we forget, because we've gotten used to a little bit this pandemic time, and that we forget that this we're all still struggling with this a little bit in some way or another, and that dealing with friendships have been lost. Some people have lost people that they loved, and the people are friends that have lost people they loved, and so just so much has changed in the way that we relate to one another, and meet up with one another and support one another. So like my friends that have lost some loved ones lately, I can't really go and be of service to them in the same way that I could have a couple of years ago. Like I would do one of those things where I'd either bring food or whatever it is that people needed help with, just being there, for some of my closer circle, when they've gone through things, I've gone and helped clean their house, or vacuumed, or take loads of laundry, or things like that people actually really need help with when they're in mourning. And I haven't been able to do that because of the pandemic. And so I feel more distant and less able to help them. And so then there's part of me that feels like I can't reach out to them in the same way, because I can't be of service to them in the same way. And so it's a time where we're rethinking how we live in the world and how we want to live in the world. And so keeping a little bit of a, I don't know, being kind to ourselves, I guess, or a little more gentle with our expectations of ourselves, I think is something that we could all do with, particularly right now.
It's interesting. And this is beyond just the world of recovery, but I've been reading more articles in the New York Times, for example, that people are rethinking their relationship to work, and that work, they're breaking away from this idea that work defines them in some way or makes them happy, that work is time that we're giving away to someone, and that we might not really have to work 40 hours a week, to get the things done that we're supposed to get done. And I just find it really interesting to read these thoughts that are percolating now, more so than I think they ever have before. And it just kind of shows you the shift that's taking place. And if it's taking place with just people when they're thinking about their jobs and how they relate to their jobs, it certainly happens to me when I think about my recovery and how I relate to the recovery community, and how, it's just a lot. There's a lot of shifting going on, and some discomfort with that too. But it's just it's a time of disruption for sure, and a time of change. It'll be interesting to see how this all comes out. But I kind of like the idea that I'm hearing more about the people that I kind of agree with them. It's like, the job is just something I have to do because I need money. It's not who I am, and doesn't make me happy. And I don't have to be in the office with a bunch of people to build culture.
Right.
Sorry for going off on that. It has nothing to do with our recovery podcast.
No, it kind of does, because we have to learn, new ways towards being happy,
True.
and
True.
then continuing to do that in a sober way. And there's been a lot of people that have been lost in the last year, that have drank again because of the difficulties, and some of them have made it back and some haven't, and so it's still a very real thing that we're going through. So I think it does have to do with it, and I agree with all of that. So yeah.
Well, I've been getting some nice compliments. I'm seeing some nice compliments for us out there. I hope this is one here from Dean. Guest appearances on this show with both hosts would be welcome interjection of meeting, feeling, and experience. We'll do that sometime. We really should have guests on the live stream more often. The problem that I've been guilty of with the live stream is that Friday comes before I ever even realize it, and I'm not really planning ahead as much as we were in the early days.
Right.
So we should, reach out to people, Angela, maybe have a guest on here sometimes. But it's so nice to hear some feedback that you all get something out of this, that you enjoy this. It just means a lot to me to hear that, because sometimes I wonder if I'm like, why am I am I just a freaking idiot here, just blabbering about stuff that, like, who cares what I think about stuff?
We are, but there's some choice. People can go listen to other idiots on Friday night at this time as well.
True.
So
that's true. Yeah. So, but thank you, and I do love doing this too, and I love the podcast and all of this, and the relationship that I have with listeners and emails that I get. And I know that sometimes I complain that it's like, oh, I get burned out and stuff, and I do, but I always will get back into it. This has just been a big part of my recovery, really, especially since COVID. This has been my connection with the recovery community, probably more than anything else. And anyway, and with you too, Angela, having you here every Friday and talking to you and laughing and thinking about the different things and learning from you and your perspective has been really helpful to me, and I appreciate that, and thank you for that as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to, and I would love to have people join us on Fridays. So if you would like to, send John a note, and we can, definitely get you on here.
Yeah,
and,
we'll put you on StreamYard.
And I'd love that. So
it would be fun. We have had some guests before, like Dale was a guest before. We had we've had a couple of guests, but we haven't done too many on the live stream. Hey, Angela, before we close out, can you tell us a little bit? Have you been giving any more thought or thinking or any work that you're doing about your upcoming project for YouTube channel and so forth?
I can't. I have been, so I do have a bunch of stuff in place to start doing that. I just haven't decided when I'm going to. And I keep changing my mind about, the name of it. But yes, I will be doing that sometime, probably before the first of the year. I'm guessing that I will, wait until at least November, because I have, a couple of other big projects coming up right now in October. But after that, I'll let you guys know. So
cool. Yeah, I look forward to that. That'll be nice. That'll be nice to see you do that. It will be cool to follow you and see what's going on there. And there's some other YouTubers out there too that we should really reach out to. I've always wanted to do that and just haven't. I think I'm going to have a chance though, because I'm at a point now where I'm not going to be doing as many interviews, and I've got a lot of back material, mainly being these live streams that I can post, and then maybe pay more attention to the YouTube channel and do more on YouTube and do some more videos and stuff like that. So that would be fun to do as well. Well,
all right then.
So we're coming up here on the end. We got another minute left, so we're going to go ahead and I guess close it down. If you do want to hear me talk in Arizona at the Varieties of Secular Experience, I'll put the link here where you can learn more about it. And you can go to the Free Thinkers Living Sober group and learn more about that. I am going to put some thought into it. I might sit down tomorrow and write something out about what I might want to say. So maybe it'll be worthwhile. I don't know. But anyway, thank you guys. It was a lot of fun. I really love being here with you guys. Thank you so much. And thank you, Angela. Thank you very much. Okay.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
week, everyone.
Bye-bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.